I'm 49. I was born in 1968. My hometown is Jacksonville, Arkansas. I'm a used car salesman. I guess my earliest memory of media, I guess is what the question is, would probably be watching the world news tonight, or, in school we had the World Book encyclopedias, and of course library, uh, newspaper. Mom and Dad always took the newspaper every day. Our first video game that we ever had was Pong, and I remember Daddy hooked it up to the back of the TV. You had to unhook the antenna wires and hook this little switch on there and switch it back and forth for TV, or you could play Pong. And the little ball just got faster and faster, ding, 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 ding. And then we got an Atari 2600. Historic events have I witnessed. Well, probably the earliest one that I remember would be the very first shuttle launch. And I remember I was in probably like the fourth grade at that time. I'm not exactly sure on the year, but I can remember my teacher saying over and over and over, "Y'all need to pay attention. Now, this is history in the making." And they had it playing on the TV in the room, which was pretty uncommon to bring a television set into the classroom. You had to check it out of the media center, and so it was a pretty big deal. That's the first big thing that I remember happening on television that I could. Of course, the Vietnam War was going on as I was, just getting old enough to kind of start watching TV, and I remember that being talked about on the news, but I didn't really understand what it meant at the time. My favorite way to be involved with media would probably still be watching the news on television. Of course, I like to read the paper sometimes. There's a lot of fake news that goes around on Facebook and whatnot, but there's a lot of real news that happens that way. So yeah, that's another way that I receive news and media and whatnot. Of course, I feel like I have to fact check all that stuff. Of course, these days with all the fake news that's going around, it feels like you almost have to fact check the news that you see on TV, because if you're watching something on CNN, it seems like it's all leaning a little bit towards too far to the left, and you really don't. I don't know. It seems like the news, depending on which outlet that you're watching, has a bias on everything right now, especially towards our current administration. And I guess I'll just leave it at that. On a typical day, what media do I access? Well, like I said, my favorite media, I guess, would be the news. And normally I'm going to watch the news at least once during the day, maybe more than that. And probably going to pop the phone out a few times and see what the latest headline is. Now, if there's something really big going on, well, I may hit it on my computer at my desk at work. See what the latest headline is, about, well, of course, recently Hurricane Harvey was moving in, so I would look at the different things to keep up with that. Weather outlets and things like that, such as NOAA. But, probably, going to look at Facebook something. Like I said, that'd be another way, I'm going to get my news. Where do I go for my local and national news? Well, I guess I'm going to have to say, for me, it's going to be television and newspaper. I'll look at the hometown paper, like the North Pulaski Leader is like our hometown paper right now. So I'll look at that for the new developments, things that are coming up, say in Cabot, where my business is located. And of course, word of mouth is a good way of getting media. You go to Cheryl's Diner in Cabot, you can find out almost anything. You just ask around. Or You know, just watching the local news on television. National news, of course. Gonna watch television for me. Unless it's something really big and then it's hitting all the social media stuff, and then you just can't help but see it when you pop your phone out. There's a headline pops up every time. But for me, mainly I'm going to be seeing that on television, or I might pick up a newspaper article and read it through, but mostly it'll be on television for me. Okay, that's a tough question. How has media made my life more or less convenient? Well, I mean, we need to know what's happening in the world. Say if I was planning to go see this big solar eclipse that just happened the other day. I needed the media to tell me about it and where to go and view that. If I wanted to be in the eclipse totality zone, I would need to know where that I needed to be. So that would have been a good thing. Or just to the opposite of that, if I wanted to make sure and avoid all the crowds and not be in the path of totality because I didn't care anything about it, then I would steer clear of that via the news. Otherwise, I guess back in ancient times, when you got a big eclipse, it just got dark and you didn't know it was coming. How has media made my life less convenient? I don't know. Other than, well, okay, I could say for like an inconvenience of media in general is fake news. Okay, I'm going to say fake news would make things inconvenient because you hear about a headline and you think, oh my gosh, this is really going on. And then you fact check it and find out that it's not. Well, you just wasted a little bit of your time. So that's an inconvenience to me. Wow, it's hard to imagine without media. I mean, like, that's almost trying to imagine the world without power, okay? And we're not connected because it seems like through different types of media, social media, just everybody has a phone these days, to watching the television or reading newspapers, that we're all interconnected in some way. And if you take all that away, how would my life be affected? I guess that's the gist of the question. I guess we would be going back about 60 or 80 years in time if we didn't have any forms of media. So I think it'd be a big leap in the wrong direction. I feel like that there's a lot of bias. There's always probably been a lot of bias, depending on which channel you're watching, which news outlet you're going with. Some of them are leaning to the right, some of them lean to the left, and it's probably hard for them to give a real balanced view all the time. You know, it's like the old adage, you can please some of the people some of the time, but you can't please all the people all the time. I don't know. That'd be a tough job. Let's just put it that way. I think it'd be a tough job to try to get what's the word I'm looking for?
Unbiased.
An unbiased opinion about news in general.
Okay.
That's all I got.